It's a coffee break. My name is Eddie Okila and welcome from the break. I think you have seen that image with the traditional music in that video coming from Nwoya, where the farmers are yet to start coffee farming and enjoy the moment of coffee in our country. And of course, in the studio with me is the CEO of Nonda Coffee Uganda, and Mr. Tony MIIRO KIBUUKA. Tony MIIRO is not a very new face to many of you. He has appeared on some of our production here before. He was a panelist on the XXL for some time, and we've always discussed some deep, meaningful things. And Mr. MIIRO is back on the show today to talk about coffee, and this is the coffee break on his maiden day. I'm sitting in for a one Kelly McTavish, who is supposed to be actually hosting this with a harsh voice. Kelly, wherever you are, we're looking for you. If you're in America, we're going to start a plane and pick you up from there and bring you back to Uganda so that you can look after the show. But Tony MIIRO, welcome. You can talk about coffee without us drinking coffee. Wait for a break so we can take some coffee. So it's a toast to the coffee, ladies and gentlemen. We have a coffee in the studio here, and we're going to toast to Nonda Coffee. So number one, before we went for a break, I ask you, why are you very passionate about coffee? And then I ask you, what did you study in school? When you were in school, what did you study? Let's talk about that. And you started by saying you are an economist. Let's break down to it.
Yeah, basically, I trained as an economist. I did economics for my...
This is at university?
Yeah, the university. That's what I did. And when I left, I think Divinity called me, and all I've known is business. This is all I know how to do. I've made some great strides, I've made some big mistakes, but again, thank God, I'm alive to be able to share my experiences and bring it all together into this subsector. So basically, that's it. I'm quite passionate about coffee, like I said. One, it's a sentimental issue. Two, it's real business. Sentimental in the sense that my grandfather actually made quite a good impact in society through coffee, and as well as he did coffee and ranching. But with my study, I realized that coffee is a very scalable product or commodity that can easily be able to be impactful on different segments. It has a very strong backward and forward linkage. The farmers can, around farming alone, you can do so many businesses. Around the trading between the farmer and the roaster, there's a lot of business. At the roastery itself, there's a lot of business. At the barista level, whereby coffee is served at the cup, there's quite a lot of business. So it's a very intriguing subsector that I was like, I think I could be part of this and see how we really create value for us and other people.
Well, thank you very much, MIIRO, for that. I have a question for you. You are talking about coffee, and coffee brings a lot of emotions to many of us who are coffee drinkers. I'm a passionate coffee drinker. I drink 3 different types of coffee. I drink the house coffee as my #1 brand every single day. I take about 3 or 4 cups of coffee every single day. And I drink espresso, which is a very strong type of coffee that only those who have the exquisite, what we call the exquisite taste for coffee, understand what it means. And we're going to sample that at some point. And I also drink once in a while, you know, the lighter version of coffee for, you know, for us, the African coffee. It's always good to appreciate the value of the African culture. So I take the African coffee, which is mixed with milk, and I enjoy that. And that's the coffee that your parents, our grandparents brought to us and introduced us to. And to all people who drink coffee all across the world, we are talking about coffee and the value of coffee and why you must drink coffee, particularly in Uganda, and why you probably need to give this gentleman a taste for his own coffee. Nonda Coffee is a Ugandan brand coming up, and he's promising quite a lot to take out there. Now, that's me as a coffee drinker. But there are situations surrounding coffee, the knowledge around coffee from the farmer to the CEO that sits and drink coffee in office. The CEOs always take a break to go and drink coffee from their busy schedule. They're either tired, which means they get a sense of refreshness, a sense of happiness, a sense of belonging from this coffee. Do the farmers understand how important they are in the life of the CEO? And do the CEOs understand how important their drinking of coffee is in the life of a farmer?
I think both parties, there's a very big gap of information gap between both parties. Many people are able to enjoy the coffee in the cup, hardly understand the process the coffee gets through to get to the cup. Likewise, many people who produce the same crop understand the impact it has after it has left their farm onto the truck to the cup. So one of the things why we came in, we are working with different, the good thing is that it seems to be like an awakening. There is a wave of awareness.
Yes.
Like the other day we were discussing is that you could find that almost everyone is into coffee.
Yes.
And it's no coincidence. And that doesn't mean that in any way that the market is getting saturated. No.
Yes.
What actually it means is that the opportunities are immense.
Yes.
The more aware people are,
Yes.
the more they have to do good for that section or for that subsector in order for it to sustain them.
Yes.
Nature has it in itself that if you sustain it, it sustains you. And yet it can live without you.
Yes.
In other words,
By it just living
by
in the
itself,
bush.
yes, by itself.
Okay.
In other words, coffee, if we give it a sustainability structure, it sustains us. But if we don't and we don't look after it, for it will be okay. It has always been there in our bushes.
Yes.
And it will continue being there. Now, what we really want to do is that we want to create that value so that the farmer is able to realize the impact they have on someone who is seated in Muyenga, someone who is seated in Kinshasa, someone who is seated in Kigali. They understand that, look, I don't do this for me.
Yeah.
I do this for the final guy. I would want them to understand that the process of handling both the crop into the planting, the harvesting, and the post-harvest management has a great impact on the quality of cup that is consumed by someone. And if someone can appreciate the quality of your output, they certainly will come back with great understanding of your contribution into the value chain.
Yeah.
So what is happening is that over the years, especially I think since 2012, the government of Uganda has been pushing for an increased production of the coffee. And actually that's why last year we produced quite a lot. We celebrated producing 5 million bags of coffee. Now that's quite a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
Okay? But there is also need to improve on the quality of management of the same.
Okay.
Okay? I was sharing with you that the Bugisu origin coffees or the Mount Elgon coffees.
The Bududa, which is
Bududa,
known for
yes,
specialty
there's
coffee.
Bududa, there's Bududa, there's Sironko, there's Mbale,
Yes.
Bukalasi, that side, Mountain Erigon.
Yes.
They have created at least a great name in having consistent cups when it comes to the quality of coffee.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that other spaces are losing it. We need to drive the same awareness in other communities, those that produce Robusta and those that produce Arabica, to produce better quality coffees. Because the better the quality, the easier it is we shall drive people to consume more of this coffee in the cups. And that's the value that the farmers are able to get.
MIIRO, thank you for giving us this much information about coffee and for answering that question. But I want to drive you to something more very specific. You said we produced 5 million bags of coffee last year as accounted for by the government of Uganda. And that's quite a number of, a lot of coffee, to speak. Why is it that our coffee's identity is lost? The world knows that at the Starbucks levels and all those high-end places as Ugandan coffee is known as the best blending coffee in the world. Why are we not the real thing in the cup
And that's,
across the world?
And that's
is our identity confused?
I think no, our identity may not be, but it is the deliberacy within the players within the industry.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I think I was doing some research and I saw how we were playing in the 80s, okay? Coming into 1987, all the way to 2000, I did a research from 1987 all the way to 1997.
Yes.
Now, what is happening is that with the coming in of privatization, the Uganda Coffee Development Board is off, okay? And everyone had to play their own card to see to it that the coffee is sold and money is returned. Because part of the structured adjustment programs was privatization. All government had no, based on the advice of the World Bank, government had no role in business. Theirs was more on to setting up the macro structure for the microeconomics to thrive.
Please note that
Now,
it's coming from an economist.
Now,
yes.
What was happening is that
Yeah.
when they liberalized the economy,
Yeah.
everyone had to play, and in an economy, what you call a capitalistic community,
Yeah.
it's all about margin, it's all about profits, and people didn't care about the quality. But like I told you, nature is so itself that it balances out itself. As time has gone on, Ugandans would sell coffee through Kenya, they would sell coffee through Tanzania, as they try to cut the corners, because people would harvest raw coffee that's not yet ripe, the quality is bad, and then they just come, they buy it as it is, and we got an identity that our coffees were not good. But over the years, there's been a great improvement. Still again, despite the improvement, there has been, much as there's some publicity of the improvement, there's still again a loss into the name. Now that is the reason why Inonda Coffee came into the market. We came not just to sell the packs, we came to create a brand, we came to create a name that can thrive onto the identity of Ugandan coffees as a premium coffee. We want to look out for those premium coffees and be able to market, brand them, and sell them to the world as coffees that are worth taking. And that is their agenda. So, to answer your question, our coffee brands had been lost because of the history. But someone has to rewrite the history that is going to be known into the future.
Hold it right
That's
there.
how we-
Hold it right there, MIIRO. And I want to ask you this question. And we are into the close of the show. This is the coffee break. My name is Eddie Okila, Tony MIIRO in the studio on the coffee break, sitting in for one Kelly McTavish. We're waiting for her to come and really take up the show. And we're going to go to every coffee shop out there and have moments with the CEOs like MIIRO, and those who drink coffee, those who invest in coffee. And the whole idea behind the show is to make sure you understand a thing or two about coffee, why you must drink coffee. MIIRO, as we enter into the close, the late Rais, as we called him, as he was known, the one and only Idi Amin Dada, the field marshal, at what point the world failed to give him the money, and he said, I am going to sell the coffee. And we hear the great story that Amin, President Amin then, may his soul rest in peace, sold coffee and built the resources that some of the great resources that this country has ever seen, a country called Uganda, for those of you who are outside Uganda. And that was a great moment. And so there was coffee then. You seems to be telling us and giving a sense of hope that you can revive the things that Amin did with Nonda Coffee. That seems to me like such a huge tall order for you to achieve it. Well, you are an economist. We appreciate that. You understand the fact that your grandfather built coffee from scratch, used coffee to change lives, and that's why in this space in time, Uganda has been named as the most entrepreneurial country in the world. But how businesses that are started today don't live to see its next birthday, as many say. I keep saying it doesn't go beyond 6 months. How are you going to make sure that Nonda Coffee does not die and does not revive the hope, the trust that we once had, the pride of coffee that Amin once had, which we have lost, as you talk about?
Okay, first and foremost, I really believe one, NODA was registered in 2019, and we've been moving since then, even through COVID. But most importantly is the fact that we are moving from basing on a strong heritage of being involved not only in business but in coffee, both as farmers, traders, and now as value addition organization. Now, you are asking me, basically you are saying, look, in the 70s, the late President Idi Amin utilized the resources from coffee alone to invest into the outreach program of embassies and all that. Now, let me tell you something. Currently, a kilo of coffee, Arabica, the green bean that produces this coffee, goes for about $3, $3.43. Okay? But when you add value to this, you're able to sell it between $7 to $15 per kilo. Okay? Now, I was telling you that if only and only if 30% of what we produce only of the Arabica, we can be able to consume as a country or within the region. Okay? We are producing close to 56,000 metric tons of Arabica. You understand? Those are about 5.6 million kilos of Arabica. If we can consume 30% of that, which is close to about 1.4 million, 1.5 million kilos, and we sell the 1.5 million kilos at $10, that's close to $15 billion. 15 billion. By just value addition, 30% of that produced only in Arabica, you're not even talking about Robusta. And what that would do, because now our Arabica will be rare on the market, its value will increase. If I told it increases from 3.4 to $4 or $5, because it has become a specialty rare coffee. Okay? It has also increased. Now you find that currently right now we are producing more bags of coffee, but the value is low, and the per capita in the subsector, like I said, is very low as $40 per annum. No one wants to work for $40 per annum. But if we add value, increase the local consumption to the 30% and make that $15 billion alone from Arabica by value addition, our economy right now is close to $35 billion worth of GDP. So if coffee alone comes in at 0.5%, literally we've grown by 50% in real GDP terms. So what am I trying to say is that coffee alone, if we play well, if the government supports the local players, if there are campaigns by local players to see that the local consumption of coffee increases, let them be part of that. There be the subsidies. I know those are things that I talked about in the news, but they are very hard to realize when you go into the real business. So basically, to answer your question, coffee can do so much for this economy. If as a sub-sector, we can increase its GDP contribution from the current 600 million that we celebrate to even though it were $2 billion, of which it's possible within very realistic terms without necessarily trying to talk things that are unrealistic. We're talking about just the realistic transactions that can happen within the value chain, whereby you say, of the Arabica that we produce, 56,000 bags of coffee of the Arabica, let's consume 30%. Let that be our target. This year, let it be 10%. 5,600 bags, let's consume them as a country. I'm telling you, the value we can generate by adding value on every kilo of coffee, whereby we are promoting local consumption, we are promoting value at source, whereby even for the export, we get into bilateral transactional negotiations. You go to Azerbaijan, you don't need to go to the non-European countries. There are countries that we call second-tier traders. The primary tiers are Germany, Italy, Switzerland, you talk about USA,
yes.
Netherlands,
Yes,
England.
yes.
But there are other countries that have the numbers, and we can be able to go in there. And then we, rather than saying, let's sell you the green bean, we come up with a strategy whereby we sell them the roast. If we increase and promote value at source, this product alone is so powerful, very sustainable, more sustainable than even the oil that everyone is looking out for.
Wow. Well, MIIRO, we got to bring this to a close. This is the coffee break. My name is Eddie Okela, but I got one more question for you, MIIRO, as we go. This is Mr. Tony MIIRO Kibuuka, the CEO of Nonda Coffee. You got to find Nonda Coffee in any supermarket, or you reach out to Nonda Coffee. First thing first, as we close the show, how would you get a person who doesn't drink coffee to start drinking coffee? How would you get the CEO and every media manager out there who gets bored, tired from their desk job to run to MIIRO Coffee or to Nonda Coffee to find coffee, or to Cafe Pub to find coffee? How are you going to get them to appreciate the value you're talking about, vis-a-vis the farmer to appreciate that my product is changing lives out there? How are you going to bridge the gap? Let's summarize that in 1 minute.
Okay, what we do is, one, we are now coming up with coffee clinics in different places. People just come and taste coffee the simplest way they know how. Get it, put it in a cup, put in some milk, because Ugandans will have a smooth palate. They want to taste coffee. They love the flavor. So we are trying to put the coffee closer to them in the simplest of ways. They do free tests. And we are trying to come up with a program of just telling people and training them how to brew these coffees locally at home. Maybe just one thing to mention.
Yes.
I would want people to understand that there is a very big difference between what we call an instant coffee and a fresh roast coffee. So most of the coffees that you're going to find as local grown coffees or brands, they are what we call fresh roast coffees. They are very, very good coffees. They are not instant coffees. You don't put them in the cup and they dissolve, but they'll give a very good cup. You'll get the real rich flavors, and they'll give you a distinct taste that you may not find even in most of the instant coffees that you take. But all I could say is that we can teach you how you get a very good cup of coffee from our fresh roasts. Thank you again, Mr. Okila.
Well, you've had that one from MIIRO. MIIRO, thank you very much. What's your one last shot in seconds of that if you were to say to me right now on the street, will get the person to drink Nonda Coffee in second?
If you want to live happy, if you want to live long, if you want to live impactful, take coffee. Coffee anytime, coffee anywhere, take your coffee today. Thank you.
Well, you've had it. That's from MIIRO right there. Is the coffee break, but we cannot leave the coffee break without taking the break itself to drink the coffee. So we're going to mix some coffee. So I just want to show you something here. This is called a French press, but it's supposed to be a Ugandan press. All right. And I'm going to serve my guest here coffee.
Thank you.
And we're going to take the coffee and take a coffee break. We've come to the end of the show. It's the coffee break. And before I go, I want to say thank you very much, Juliet Nambalirwa Chiaga, for watching the show. I see a number of you. I'm going to bring names of people who I have not seen before watching the show. And Juliet, you have won yourself a cup and the t-shirt and a pack from House of Talent, courtesy of Nonda Coffee. We're going to deliver it from House of Talent. And there is another gentleman here called Luzemu Amonoli. You've also won yourself a pack from there. And we're going to make sure that Nonda Coffee bring this to you. And to all of you guys who had kisses and disses coming, we're not going to be able to read all of them because we're going to go. We've got to go because the slam dunk basketball is coming up here. And Felix Owopald and, of course, the one and only Patricia Cahill is going to bring us the slam dunk basketball. We got to run. It's now time for us to take off. Take a sip. Take a coffee break. Until next week, Friday, MIIRO will be back.
Thank you.